Hello everybody out there and welcome back to another Dark Avenger Comic Book review, guys. Again, apologies. This is a bit late again. You know, we're falling behind on these reviews. We got a lot of reading for Convergence right now, and I feel like the importance of making sure we cover the entire event was pushing these reviews a couple of days later. Also the indie reviews, a lot of indie books also, so I'll talk about this more a little bit on Friday, but again, apologies that this is late. We'll discuss more live this Friday. So,
these books
were released on
April 25th, 2015, the last week of April.
300 is coming quickly. Big things to come after episode 300 of the Dark Avenger Comic Book review. Marvel goes first, and honestly, there's no order for Marvel. I enjoyed everything this week from Marvel. Fantastic Four, 645. My first full Fantastic Four run. This is the final issue of this run, or of this volume, I should say. I think Fantastic Four will be back probably after Secret Wars / Battle World. We get through that. Hopefully, we'll get a map at some point. We are going to a comic book store, so it's going to be hard to catch up and catch one of those. But anyway, Fantastic Four. You've got Franklin and his mom fighting. Oh God, why is his name completely leave my mind at this moment? This is an extra sized book, by the way, Psycho Man, and it's a $5.99 book. So this book needs to impress, or it's a waste of money, and it did. The artwork was really good in the first story. Psycho Man versus Miss Invisible. She gets hurt. Franklin just I love Franklin. He reminds me a lot of Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. Whenever something happens to somebody he cares about and he loses it, he loses it. And in a good way. You got Mr. Fantastic versus the Quiet Man. That was really good. And you've got the regular Avengers fighting the Heroes Reborn Avengers. And long story short, I'm not going to talk about the fight. I'm not going to talk about the battle, but everybody's wondering if Johnny... Everybody knows because the image has been leaked like everywhere already on the internet. Johnny Storm gets his powers back, which I thought was obvious. That was definitely going to happen. I don't know anybody in their right mind that would think it wouldn't. Especially because everything's going to be undone from issue 1 to now. Everything's going to be fixed. So Johnny gets his powers back. The Quiet Man goes into hiding. The Heroes Reborn become lifeless shells, as Scarlet Witch puts it. They win, and it turns out, spoiler alert, Puppet Master never was killed by Ben Grimm. It was a setup. Puppet Master is still alive, so Ben is now officially off the hook as well. So, by the end of this issue, the Fantastic Four is back to being the Fantastic Four. Happy endings all around. You know, Ben is no longer in jail. Johnny has his powers back. Reed and Sue are back together. Everybody's happy, and obviously the Baxter Building, once we get out of Secret Wars, will be back. You get some nice side stories with Johnny Storm. I like that story a bit. You get something with Sue leading into something in the future possibly, but this was an excellent book. And then you get a timeline of Fantastic Four, and then the ending has a little bit of Thing, which I like. I like the Thing stories. I think the artwork for the Thing was really good as well too. I really wasn't into the last story because of the artwork, but it was still nice. It was Valeria and Mr. Fantastic. Excellent issue. For $5.99, you get what you pay for. It's a perfect ending to a really great volume. It's going to be sad seeing Leonard Kirk leave because he is the first person to hook me on Fantastic Four and keep me all the way through until the volume's over. I'm just sad to see it go so soon. Hopefully we'll be seeing it again after Secret Wars / Battle World, but let's see how horrible the movie does. Nova issue number 30. Sam is finally united, or reunited with his father. Great moments in this book. I really liked it. But the Chitauri, who enslaved his father, also find him because the guy that gave Sam the coordinates, here's a nice warm scene for you guys to see, really great artwork, sold them out to the Chitauri. So Sam basically provides a distraction for them so that they can escape, but the father doesn't want to escape. It all leads back to Earth, where he sends this gigantic meteor falling to Earth, and Sam actually saves the Earth. However, now they're heading towards Earth, and I believe the next issue of Nova will be the end. because of
Secret Wars.
Secret Wars. Remember, guys, all the main Marvel books will be ending for a time because of Battle World / Secret Wars. The good news is, though, and I like Marvel. First of all, this was an excellent book. I definitely recommend it. I've been reading it all 30 issues long. Love Nova. Definitely recommend this series. This was an excellent book. So the big question is, will everything end? You know, will Sam be reunited with his father? Will they be able to stop the Chitauri by the final issue, which I'm guessing is the next issue? And it's all leading up to a really great climax. Now, with Marvel, I like what they're doing. They're ending, or they're putting on pause, all of their main series. Everything. It's a good and bad thing. It's bittersweet. A lot of the series, you know, we don't want to see them stop. A book that I'm going to be reviewing soon, I don't want to see that frozen right now because a lot of, you know, it's really a good read. However, it's good, it's bad in that sense where we're not going to be reading, you know, the books that we've been enjoying for a while, but it's good in another way because there's going to be a ton of books connected to Battle World and Secret Wars, and it frees up those slots for the books like this for books from Secret Wars and Battle World. I just don't like that we're kind of thrusted into it. It's either you're reading Secret Wars / Battle World or you're not reading anything at all from Marvel, and that's one of the downsides, and we'll talk about that also on the live show this week. But excellent book from Marvel, from Nova. Daredevil issue number 15. The Shroud destroys Daredevil in this issue. Matt is... Every single piece of dirty laundry Matt has is revealed in this issue because the Shroud feels like Matt is not going to help him. So he reveals everything about Foggy being alive, working with the Owl's daughter, clients that he's worked with, secrets about Kristen. Basically, the Shroud has been using Owly, or the Owl, to spy on every single digital device possible, and that is how he's built up all this... this dirt on Matt. And it turns out that the girl that Matt saved, who was the commissioner's daughter, she doesn't believe Matt anymore. She thinks that Matt set it all up, so this way he could be, you know, considered the city's hero. So now basically the world, the entire city is turned against Daredevil. And the one person Daredevil turned... I'm not revealing the last page. The one person that Daredevil can turn to right now, the Owl's daughter sends him to him, and there's only one person that Daredevil can turn to right now to help him beat the Shroud. I don't know, but it's a person that we all thought was dead.
This is Port.
Oh no, this isn't pause. This is gonna have an end to the story before.
Because I would have said that would have been an interesting pause right there.
This was excellent. I'm personally not giving anything away in this issue. This issue of Daredevil, you guys definitely need to read. It was excellent. It was excellent. Mark Waid should not leave Daredevil. Unfortunately, he will be.
Isn't he writing another book, guys? I think.
Princess Leia issue 3.
Oh, that's one of them.
Wait after wait. Princess Leia has found, is on another planet now with a bunch of Alderaanians who are, they're an enclave. They're inside the planet basically, and it's a huge community of Alderaanians, and she's there to save them. And they don't know that Leia is actually on their side. They know that she's a princess, but they don't trust her. And then it turns out, she finds out that there's a spy on her ship, because in the very beginning of the issue, that spy is telling them her sister, who works for the Empire, where they're going and what they're doing. And guess what? The Empire shows up, and they believe Leia's a traitor. Huge action. Leia has to go, has to hide from them because they believe that she's a traitor. The Empire attacks. Leia shows up, or comes back and fights them. Huge fight scene. It involves you guys are not going to know what this is unless you read this book, but it involves a rock render. You gotta read it to see what that is. And in the end, the Alderaanians follow Leia and join her, join the rebellion. However, now Leia's left with figuring out who the traitor is. That is the long and short of it. It was a really quick read for me this week with Princess Leia, but I really did enjoy it. I love the artwork. I mean, I want to make sure Terry Dotson's artwork was awesome. and Mark Waid's writing is really great as well.
Yeah, and speaking of Star Wars, in the fall I heard they were coming out with the Disney Infinity 3.0. It's going to have Star Wars with the Clone Wars and stuff. Yeah, just thought I'd just throw that in case it's coming out this
Well, I'm not getting 3.0. I'm sorry, but I got 2.0.
No, I have the Clone Wars.
I've yet to touch 2.0 with the Marvel heroes and Star Wars.
Yeah. But continuing on now to
this is another excellent book that this should not be interrupted by Secret Wars because it's so good. Superior Iron Man, issue number 8. In the last issue, Dark Tony beat the what's the word I'm looking for? The backup drive Tony. And it turns out here, if you read the preview, you already know that the backup Tony actually had another backup. So the AI Tony survived. I mean, Tony tried to fake it and say that he was cured, that he was fixed. And then the other Tony shows up, the AI Tony shows up and says, no, he's lying. It's not over yet. And I like how Teen Abomination is, it's stuck in the middle, so to speak. You've got AI Tony who wants to go up against regular Tony, but then Tony decides to throw this huge party, and AI Tony knows that he's basically just using them as a shield. The Tony that he's dealing with, has lost all his, and this is due to the wonderful event known as Axis. He has no inhibitions and just no limits anymore. And Tony, the AI Tony, basically bides his time and sets up for what Dark Tony is doing. So he takes his time and bides his time. Instead of attacking, he takes the time out to do something else, and we find out what that is later on. There's a great scene with Teen Abomination here where him and Pepper are talking, and then AI Tony shows up, which is basically the real Tony Stark. Let's put it that way. And Teen Abomination, he feels like he's a monster, and Pepper's trying to tell him he's not. And that's when Tony comes in and says she's right. What you look like isn't who you are. And Teen Abomination is just trying to figure himself out. And I liked it. This was a great moment in the book. Tom Taylor wrote this perfectly. And that's the real Tony. And you know that that's the real Tony. And then that's where Dark Tony basically tells AI Tony that he's doing Biomark 1. And that's a project that Tony scrapped because it basically took away it's a program that basically he was going to use for war, where soldiers can use it to use civilians, opposite team soldiers, as take over their mind and use them as agents. And he decides that the people he's throwing this party with, he decides to use it on them to kind of protect him from AI Tony. And it turns out that AI Tony had enough time to create an army of AI Tonys. So basically, tons of armors are going up against Superior Iron Man. And I'm not going to spoil the last page, but let's just say we're getting a glimpse of something from the Avengers movie in the last page. And I am more, and Marvel please fix your covers, I've said this a million times. Superior Iron Man, leaving out a bunch of stuff on purpose, is an excellent series. If you haven't been reading it, it's 8 issues in. I would highly recommend it. It's excellent. Tom Taylor is writing an excellent Iron Man, and I can't wait to see the ending. Will Tony Stark get, be able to fix himself or undo what Axis did to him? And I'm surprised that the Avengers aren't noticing anything going on in Los Angeles right now, because this is all happening in Los Angeles. If the Avengers did, I'm sure Scarlet Witch would show up and fix Tony in a lickety-split moment. Probably.
Probably, yeah.
But I'm just saying, I'm surprised that none of the Marvel Universe is aware of what's going on right now. But, I guess we'll find out as the series concludes. Hopefully, like I said, we get that ending where Tony will actually be able to fix himself. Because this Dark Tony, I don't see him surviving the series through, surviving as the main Tony permanent.
Silk issue number 3, where Silk meets up with Black Cat for the first time. And, it starts off with a story where she's flying off against this Pokemon creature, or so that's what she calls a Pokemon dude, I guess. First off, the artwork is pretty good, I should say, actually. And, yeah, so that's basically, when she gets knocked out, she goes back to her memories, and she uses that adrenaline that gets like so mad to literally like almost kill this guy, but in the end, like, she just wound up talking to him. His name's Harris Porter, by the way, and we just had a little bit of a talking scene, and she sent him to the hospital, which I thought was nice, which is where Black Cat meets up with her, and then she's like saying, you should retire, you're just a rookie, so best to quit while you can. So Black Cat just treats her like garbage in this issue, and there's more to it in the end, and you'll find out. And this I want to show as a spoiler in the end. Spider-Man meets up with Silk about, you know, like saying, I'm worried about you, and if you're not going to listen to me, I brought some backup, and who is the backup? Fantastic Four.
Nice.
So I thought that was, I mean, it makes sense because he was the team with them even before Johnny Storm's death in the Fantastic Four. Like, he still was with them and he's special friends with them. But wow, the ending was like really something. I like how Spider-Man is trying to help Silk get past all this that's happening. You know, that's what I like about his character.
All right, we're in DC Comics now. However, I have 3 issue 40s, and Mike has 1 book before we get into Convergence. First, the weakest book of the week goes to Superman issue 40. Superman is testing out his new supernova ability, and in doing so, again, turns normal for a day. This is something we were hoping we weren't going to see a lot of, and this is now like all we're seeing. So Superman turns normal for a day, and apparently he loves being normal because food tastes different when he's normal. So yeah, basically Superman loves to eat, and then he loves to drink. And he doesn't just drink, he gets piss drunk. Piss drunk to the part where, to the point,
show them that.
I'm not going to show that part, don't worry. To the point where he wakes up in his apartment going, what happened?
And I agree with what Mike Spider said. Batman's character is also not his character. His character changes in this book when he talks with Superman. Like, it's a little off character. Remember Mike Spider said that?
Yeah, I'm just wanting to make...
Oh, I thought you said that, you know, because I remember from the live show we did on Comic Frontline.
Apparently, Superman using his powers, I wanted to make sure I was right. He doesn't get to... He can't fly at the moment. So when he gets his powers back, it takes a while for him to gain enough power from the sun to fly, so he leaps in this one. And he's still weak, so he does get beaten up a bit. And then I love how he goes to the Daily Planet, and Lois sees him all beaten up just like Superman was on the newscast, and apparently she puts 2 and 2 together. After 76 plus years, not counting when Superman revealed himself to Lois in 1991, all of a sudden Lois figures out that Clark's Superman. And this is all going to lead into Divergence. And we don't even want to talk about Divergence right now, but this was a stupid issue. I'm sorry,
I didn't
but
like it either.
It is. Batman wasn't in character. This is not the Superman I grew up with. I feel like I am insulting my Superman collection by continuing this, but I know me, if I stop reading Superman again, and let's say I wait a year before going back to Superman, that's going to be a year's worth of catching up, and I don't want to do that yet, but I do have... I'm going to try not to reach my breaking point. That's all I'm going to say here. I'm going to try and hold out. You know, there has to be, maybe there has to be a reason behind this somehow. I'll talk more about this on Friday also. But Batman issue 40, the final fight between Joker and Batman happens here. Alfred is taken to the hospital. The Bat family's losing. Actually, Dick shows up once in this book, and he pretends to be Batman. And I love how Scott Snyder said this will be the first and last time that happens. So the fight between Joker and Batman was dark, and Batman definitely lost it, I believe, towards the end of this fight. Whoa. And in the end, we don't know where Batman or Joker are. They basically die. I don't want to say die together, but we don't know what happens to them. And then we get a final scene with Alfred and his daughter, and it turns out Bruce left Alfred a letter. And Alfred has the chance to get his hand back, which obviously I think he will. She gives him the letter, and I think that in the end, he's going to get his hand back. And there's also hints that Batman might still be around also. We don't know for sure, and we don't know where Joker is either. So it's 99.9% I'm sure that Bruce survived, and so did Joker. However, we all know that starting in June, Commissioner Gordon's going to be Batman, and Bruce is going to become Bat-God or something. He's going to transcend for some weird reason. I don't know. That's what I've been hearing on the internet, at least anyway. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see with that. The best of the 40s this week, though, has to go to Justice League issue 40. Metron explaining everything that's been going on with DC from pre-crisis all the way through to the current event, which is Convergence. He tries to reach out to the Anti-Monitor to stop him from causing another crisis, because DC, if it has another crisis, the world will not survive from it. And we also get to see the truce between the New Gods and Apocalypse, where Allfather sends his son, Scott, aka Mr. Miracle, to Apocalypse, and Orion is sent to Allfather and lives with the New Gods, and he obviously becomes a New God, and he wants to fight against Darkseid. I love this book because we got to see characters that we haven't seen in a while the way they were back then. We got to see Infinite Crisis, we got to see Zero Hour, we got to see Crisis on Infinite Earths, we got Infinite Hour, Flashpoint, and the one thing I liked when Metron talked about Flashpoint, I feel like all these hints are drawn that the universe, the new existence that was born again, has not yet solidified. So it's still liquid. It can still be changed. But if there's another crisis, reality will not survive. And we get more meat finally to the Anti-Monitor. For me, the Anti-Monitor was always just the Anti-Monitor. And then in this issue, we find out that the Anti-Monitor was once a person or an alien. And he once sat in Metron's chair. He wasn't always the Anti-Monitor. And Metron swears that if the Anti-Monitor doesn't cause another crisis, he will find a way to save the Anti-Monitor. But the Anti-Monitor, he says that if the Anti-Monitor continues this, he will fall to the wrath of Darkseid. And that's when we get the big reveal at the end about Darkseid's daughter, which I think that's going to be really cool. And the Anti-Monitor doesn't care. He wants to basically redo reality again, and as he puts it, the age of the anti-god will begin. So this is definitely setting up to be something awesome. Obviously, this is going to be starting in June. It's going to lead into fall, which might lead into the next September event from Marvel, if they do another September event, because now 52 is gone. We will not be seeing the new 52 as of June on any of the Marvel comics anymore, which I'm glad. But, I don't know, but Justice League, excellent issue 40. Did what it set out to do. It set up an awesome event. This event has me pumped. This issue brought up memories from the past, and it just fleshed out a lot of really great characters. I loved it. I cannot wait for June for Justice League issue 41.
He-Man the Eternity War issue number 5. We get a really strange character change for now of Skeletor, who wants a favor from She-Ra, basically using her sword. Like, he talks about, about his past and everything and what he's been doing and so on and so forth. You could definitely read the dialogue to see for yourself with all these I
love how, yeah, they show Robot Chicken, the cartoon, the video game. It's crazy.
Yeah, so he asks for She-Ra to renew him as Prince Kelder for a better life, or basically to go up against Lord Hordak. So this is Prince Kelder, with what She-Ra did for him. But Evelyn didn't like that she was on, She-Ra's side, so he goes to Lord Hordak, and not only does she go Lord Hordak to join him, but to give him the Eye of Chaos and the Eye of Kronos. Both of them.
The Eyes of...
Or the Eyes of something.
I forgot what... Shoot, why did it leave Grayskull?
Yeah. And then it goes into He-Man Teela's scene where she's bringing He-Man to like 30 years after he defeated Hordak, and...
Looks like they're together.
Yeah, they're together and all that, but you'll have to see for the issue for yourself to see. It's like a little bit of a story. It's like a 1, 2, 3 read basically, but this was really good. I like how the Attorney War is actually turning out. It's really building up to be really interesting.
Alright, we are on the final week of Convergence, issue number 1. Starting next episode, we go into the number 2s. So week 4 of Convergence begins here, so starting with Michael.
Detective Comics Convergence issue number 1. The artwork was really bad, and the story was so boring. The only good part about the story was that the Red Sun?
Red Sun Superman.
Yeah, the Red Sun Superman is in this story.
The most boring parts were Huntress and Batman Dick Grayson. I'm sorry, but the best parts were with Red Sun Superman.
Yeah, and just look at the artwork. The artwork, I just... and it wasn't just that. The story was like, he lost his powers and he's becoming a regular person and everything because the dome fell and everything. And I know we've said this a bunch of times. So he's just saying, remain calm. We're in a dome, but things are going to turn out to be, great. And no threat can ever bring us down. And basically he's being a motivational speaker for everybody.
I just love how we're in all the old DC universes right now. However, Red Sun somehow made it all the way to the last week of this month.
Yeah, and then there's the message where Red Sun Superman has his powers again, and then Dick Grayson, Batman, and Huntress have their powers again as well.
They don't have their powers. They just
they meet up and encounter with the Red Sun Superman. They have a little bit of a fight scene, but then they actually want to work together for other stuff, and well, let's just say that things turn out very chaotic in the end, but I just, it's the weakest book of Convergence for this week at least, but we're just collecting all Convergence, so if you're doing that, then yeah, but if not, then you could just skip it.
Crime Syndicate issue number 1. Again, I don't understand how this other universe made it in here, but we have the Crime Syndicate on one side and we have 1 million on the other. So we're getting to see the Crime Syndicate depowered on one end, and it turns out that Superwoman has been put to death, and she's writing this whole thing in the beginning of the book. And then you got the Crime Syndicate who wants to save Superwoman, and then you've got 1 million where they're trying to figure out how to escape the dome themselves. And it turns out that the Lex... See, I didn't read 1 million to really give a good... I forget what they're called. Lex... shoot, I don't remember what they're called, but basically they're targeting the Justice League from 1 million. And we'll be right back. Yeah, that's right. So, guys, stay tuned. We'll continue with and finish week 4 of Convergence. So, hang tight, and we'll be back at the click of a button. Alright, we're back. And they were called the Luthorians, by the way. And then you got, in the Crime Syndicate, you got the Rogue Hunters hunting down the rest of the Crime Syndicate to bring them, or to collect on the bounty on their heads. And then you have Superwoman, who seems to have met her end, and just as 1 million's Justice League seems to be at a point where I don't want to really spoil too much, but the domes fall. Crime Syndicate gets their powers back, the 1 million characters get their powers back, and guess who they're fighting? Each other. So it ends with the Crime Syndicate in 1 million's universe, and Ultraman throws the first punch. That's all I'm going to say here.
Of course, Ultraman always throws the first punch.
And they make it look like Superwoman's dead, like they executed her, but I think that they executed her right as the dome dropped, so she probably will survive and she'll show up in the end of this series, this mini-series by issue 2.
Convergence, Plastic Man, and the Freedom Fighters, issue number 1. And this comic book's actually pretty interesting. It just talks about how the Freedom Fighters fought against the Germans along with Silver Ghost, who was the leader of the Nazis back then. And yeah, you just get a nice artwork, actually, of Plastic Man and the Freedom Fighters. But however, after the Red Sky and when the dome falls and everything, they lose their powers, and you know, you get more about all these riots and everything that happens, and they can't do nothing about it to stop them, so they wind up going into jail. And then when the dome breaks, they get their power back, and they're just gonna have a three-way smackdown with not just oh wow, how can I forget the ghost's name already? Jesus, Silver Ghost, but others as well in this issue. So it's basically the team has a lot on their hands at the end of this issue, but I really thought it was interesting, and I like the information that they give on some of the books, because I didn't read pre-New 52, so yeah.
Got Blue Beetle issue number 1. So the dome has fallen and Captain Atom's lost his powers. Blue Beetle never had powers, but Captain Atom lost his powers, so he is trying to keep the law and the ways, you know, under control. And he bans any heroism, any costume people from being costume people while they're stuck under the dome. He's enforcing the law. And Ted is actually inventing ways to try to destroy the dome. And he actually believes he's found a way, and he calls Captain Atom in to witness it. Now, unfortunately, he fails. However, Captain Atom gets his powers back. But how is that possible? Booster Gold. And there's more on Booster Gold soon. We will be talking about Booster Gold.
Booster Gold appears.
So apparently, because Booster Gold is inside the dome, it somehow gave Captain Atom and this other guy, oh god, what was his name? Dr. Spectro.
I was wondering how they gave...
Yeah, he somehow gave them their powers back, but then when he somehow leaves, and I'll explain what happens with Booster and why he's jumping around dome to dome when we get to Booster Gold, Captain Atom and Spectro, Dr. Spectro, lose their powers again. However, Blue Beetle's there to save the day. And that's when, of course, the dome falls. I love how Captain Atom lost his powers, and then not even 5 minutes later, not even 2 minutes later, Telos makes his announcement, the dome falls, and that's where we're left off. We don't even get another world. It is literally focused only...
Is that the question?
Yes, the question's in this also. The question's the third person involved with all this.
Oh.
But all we see in this book is this world, and obviously we get... I guess Booster Gold is the other variable, which there is a Booster Gold book. We'll get into that. But I thought that this was a really good book. I enjoyed it. I never read any of the Blue Beetle stuff. You know, I'm a Booster Gold fan. Maybe one day I'll go back and read some of the Blue Beetle books. Maybe not the very first volume, but at some point some volume. But I enjoyed this book. I thought it was really good. And I really like that Booster Gold made an appearance here. And Blue Beetle didn't know who Booster Gold was at this time. So, obviously, this is very early on in the Blue Beetle. A lot of people are actually mentioned here, like Judo. Oh, God. I believe this is before they really introduced Blue Beetle into the DCU. Because it says here, Hub City, Earth 4. So, obviously, this is before... Crisis on Infinite Earths, where everybody after that, it was all in one world, and that's where Blue Beetle and Booster Gold became friends. So this is before the friendship with Judo Master and Peacemaker. All the characters that were on Earth 4 are mentioned here. We don't see them, but I just thought this was a really good read. I enjoyed it.
Convergence, Justice Society of America, issue number 1. And in this book... basically talks about, like, the dome has already fallen already, and it's been, you know, that since they lost the powers, they just grew old, and Ken Nelson went to a coma. So, what was his name? Because it says so in the beginning of the book. I want to just get it right.
Jay?
Yeah, Jay.
Jay Garrick?
Yeah. Yeah, goes to meet up with Kent, and he has a talk with him saying, you know, I wish we could, you know, have our powers again, but we can't because we're old and we really can't move around like we used to, but someday we might be able to do it again. So then there's a father-son moment between,
Hector?
Yeah, it was Hector and, you know, and Carter was there as well, and then they have a little bit of a talk with each other about the same thing, you know, about Ken Nelson being in a coma. So when they call that there's something going on with Ken Nelson, the dome breaks. Oh, I didn't show some artwork, by the way.
Oh, show it when the Justice... show it towards the end.
Alright, well, I'll show it towards the end. Yeah, that's a good idea. So the robot actually breaks out there, and Ken Nelson wakes up and says, "One last time." And sure enough, they went from old to being that. The Justice Society of America. That was interesting, and that was cool.
Yeah, because they got their powers back.
But I noticed in some of the issues I read this week, like some of them either got old or are at their age, and then when they get their powers back.
Well, it's kind of like with Steve Rogers. Remember when Steve Rogers lost the Super Soldier Serum? He got really old.
So basically,
without their powers, they got really old, and then when they got them back, it kind of brought them back a little bit.
No, just that they get old when that happens. Not the book. I'm just saying it sucks that you go old.
I know.
Imagine real.
This was a really fun read. Shazam issue #1. This only focuses again on the Shazam Dome. We are in Shazam's universe, and it's been a year. Billy wants, they're unable to use their powers. Fawcett City, they're in. Billy's unable to become Shazam, so the people think Shazam basically left them. There's a little nod to Bullet Man and Bullet Girl, old superheroes. You don't even know them.
I don't know.
And then Billy thinks there's something going on with two people. I'm not going to spoil who. And him, Mary, and shoot, why is the name leaving me completely? Wow, the name completely left me at this point, and that's horrible that his name left me. Frankie, I think it is. Captain Marvel Jr. I can't. Wow, I really can't believe his name completely left my mind. But anyway, it turns out that Dr. Sylvana and other rogues from Shazam's gallery were planning against Billy because Dr. Sylvana actually saw Billy and company change in front of him, and now he was planning against them. And now that the dome's down, none of them have their powers anymore. And then it turns out they find out that the dome is gone, and guess what that means? Shazam. And the rest of the book is just awesome action. You got Shazam fighting a lot of the rogues from his gallery back in the day. The artwork definitely sticks with the time. And then we get the big last page where we find out who is going up against Fawcett City, and we all know it's Gasoline Gotham City, or Gotham City by Gaslight, and that's the vampire universe.
Right.
So this is going to be an interesting part too, but I thought this was excellent. Billy and the rest getting their powers back at the right moment, and it just had that Shazam feel to it. I liked it.
Shazam.
I don't believe I forgot his name. That's horrible of me.
It happens. Convergence.
I don't really read Shazam.
I know. Convergence Infinity Inc. issue #1. And in this comic book, this is a book I reviewed on Comic Frontline actually. I like how once again, how their stories are basically they show who they were before. After the dome fell, when they lost their powers. And this kid's saying Infinity who, who's Infinity Inc. And you didn't know who they were either. And basically they were people who worked alongside the JSA.
It was their kids.
Right. And there was that. So, the Green Lantern's daughter, I forgot what her name was. She goes to see Jade. She goes to see her father Henry, and he's out like a light, so she gets him help and brings him over to Todd's house. And then when he wakes up, he just says about how Alan Scott didn't want them to be. It's a whole big thing. I explained it, like I said, more on the Comic Frontline review. So the message came. Everybody got their powers back, and saying, we want to survive and everything, and we're a team, and we have a plan. And basically, their plan. This is what I was shocked about, actually. From All-Star Western, Hex was in it, which is him right. Oops, which is him right here.
Wow, your book caved in on you.
Yeah, and I was so shocked because I don't know how I missed that because I'm so used to the New 52, Jonah Hex, and yeah, so he fights with them. So definitely a shocker after hearing it on the live show, but they fight against them because. And they want to work together as a team, and they're like, nah, we're here to fight, because, the whole so yeah. But it was really great. Almost book of the week, actually.
This book breaks the formula. It has nothing to do with any Dome. Booster Gold. Anytime Booster Gold's involved in anything, whether it be this, Future's End, I believe he was also involved with Justice League or one of the books. Anyway, he's the man from the outside the multiverse. He's from the Vanishing Point. So instead of being in a dome here, you have Rip and Skeet saving Booster Gold. If you read Future's End, you know where Booster Gold is. He's a prisoner to somebody who wants to find the Vanishing Point. And it's up to Rip, that Booster from New 52, and Skeet to find the old Booster Gold, his father, and save him, and obviously Michelle, aka Gold Star. And they find them, they free them. We find out that Rip's father, Booster, is dying because of all the time jumping he's doing. And the other Booster eventually will as well. I love the Boosters coming face to face. And this book is so good. When Booster Gold from New 52 talks about Superman and Wonder Woman being together, Rip kind of is in shock completely. And then when he also mentions, if I can reach out to Superman and he's willing to talk to me, and the Booster from the pre-New 52 universe is like, your Superman would ignore you. Because I love how they're showing the big differences between the New 52 and the old DCU here. And it shines here. So Booster from pre-New 52 is still jumping around because of the particles that are... It's hard to explain, but he's jumping from dome to dome now. You have a little bit of a connection to Convergence 4. We'll get to that soon with Deimos. We find out that Booster, we saw him in Blue Beetle's book, but we don't see that here. We see him in the Legion of Superheroes world for a time. And apparently, I guess Booster being in the Legion of Superheroes world, it gives them their powers back, because we saw that in Blue Beetle's book. And it turns out that, again, Booster jumps again, and he ends up in his Metropolis, and it turns out that Ted Kord is alive.
Wait,
in this world.
I'm trying to remember.
The Beetle, Blue Beetle.
Oh, Blue Beetle, oh.
And he's like, you're alive? And he's like, and looking way better than you, so I guess we'll find out more as the issue continues. But I love Booster Gold because his book, even though it's involved in the event, it's still outside because and Rip's the only one that's able to jump inside and outside domes because he has the ability to do that. And I like that, and I like that Booster Gold's kind of that person outside the main equation, but he's still part of the equation somehow. Really good stuff. Booster Gold is one of my favorite books from the week.
Alright, and this is my best book of the week, Convergence, World's Finest, issue 1 of 2. To sum up this whole book, it's this one character named Gibbet, who, when he was a kid, he saw superheroes, and because of that, he had a passion to draw just superheroes. You know, like how they save the world and how superheroes and good will always conquer evil and everything, because that's what they do. You know, they take care of them, and no matter what. So then we go to Metropolis, where this is taking place, where there's the red sky, and this is before the dome fell, and we have some nice action going on here, where you know, they're like helping one another. The knight, what was his name? Sir Justin and Gibbet, they have a, you know, like they team up together when the dome fell, so Justin gets old, and then it really just has this long inner dialogue. And it's been a year now, and when the dome when the dome broke, so Justin came to being himself again, this knight, and with being a knight, there's just a lot of stuff that, I guess Telios is doing, because it has like the purple, inner dialogue, so this could mean bad for Sir Justin and Gibbet, because he's involved in this as well, and Gibbet is not the one that has the powers, just powers to draw, but not like superhero powers. So that was really the best book I read this week.
And my favorite book is a book I reviewed for Comic Frontline, Action Comics issue 1. It jumped back and forth perfectly. It gave you 50-50 what was going on in Red Sun Superman's dome and what was going on in pre-Crisis Superman's dome. Superman in pre-Crisis dome revealed himself to the world. So the world knows that, or Metropolis knows, I should say, that Clark Kent is Superman. He's married to Lois Lane. But he still blames himself for not being able to do anything. He's like, Superman will be able to get us out of here, and he's not. And Lois is like, you know what? Don't be so hard on yourself. And Red Sun Superman, along with Red Sun Lex Luthor, are trying to figure out how to break the dome themselves. Kara, aka Power Girl, pre-crisis, is not adapting well to being normal. As a matter of fact, she'd give anything to be Power Girl again. And we actually see the moment where she was in Metropolis when the dome fell, and she gained a couple of scars from that moment, I will say that.
Ouch.
We get to see the Invisible Jet in Red Sun's world, which I like. And then you just see Clark, Lois, Kara, and her husband trying to have a nice evening, and Lois just kind of loses it because all they talk about is the dome, and it's like she's sick of hearing it. She just wants to, move on with life because there's nothing any of them can do anyway. And then that's when the dome falls, or begins to fall. The dome doesn't actually fall in this issue. It starts to fall. Telos's speech goes through in this issue. And I thought this was an excellent book. It went 50-50. It showed you what was happening with Red Sun, what was happening with pre-crisis, and obviously they're both going to meet up at some point, or Red Sun is busy in Detective Comics right now, but I'm sure that they're going to meet up, this Superman and Red Sun Superman, before Action Comics is over. One more issue to go.
And now we go into this.
Convergence issue number 4. Last issue, Dick Grayson was paralyzed. This issue, Telos gives him this suit, and as long as he's in this liquid silver that is part of the planet, Dick Grayson's able to move again. So I'm guessing by the end of this series, Dick Grayson's going to be fine. He'll be able to move. Batman is dead, or Earth 2 Batman, to their knowledge, is dead. Deimos shows his true colors by the middle of this issue, and it turns out he wants the power over Telos and the rest of the world, and he's going to free Brainiac and destroy all of reality. And I'm not going to spoil who he sees in this issue, but in the end, basically, Deimos is confronted by the Earth 2 heroes, Telos and Dick Grayson, and he is willing to free Brainiac. And this is, I guess, the big connection to Future's End. He's willing to free Brainiac from the T-Sphere, and Brainiac promises him if he frees him, he will have he'll have whatever his heart desires, or whatever he wants, he'll have if he frees Brainiac. And that's where the issue's left off. The rest of the book, towards the middle and stuff, with characters, I have no clue who half of these characters are because it harkens back to a different time period. And it really didn't interest me. And Deimos, I had a feeling when Jay told us about who Deimos really was, I knew he was going to turn on the Earth 2 heroes. He did in not even one issue. He turned on them, and now he's going to free Brainiac, and the true convergence is going to begin. Because if Brainiac is freed, it's going to be all of the Dome Cities, all of the realities versus Brainiac, and Telos is going to have to choose a side. And I think Telos is going to end up turning on Brainiac as well, possibly, but I could be wrong. Convergence, we are 4 issues in. A nice amount of stuff has happened, but I expected something really completely different than what we're getting right now. We still have 4 more issues to go, and I hope things pick up, but right now I'm underwhelmed with this book. With the connecting books, there's the good, there's the bad, and then there's the average. But Convergence itself, the Convergence series, I expected a little bit more. I don't know what I didn't expect what we're getting right now. I didn't expect a humongous focus on the Earth 2 heroes. I expected, to see the different Dome Cities. I expected to see a lot more. What we're getting in the miniseries is what I expected to see more in depth in the main series, and instead all we're focusing on is Telos, Earth 2 heroes, now Deimos, and that's it. So hopefully with the next 4 issues things will pick up a bit. Brainiac is coming, so we'll see how that plays out. So that's it for this week's review, guys. As always, don't forget to check out comic-related, Comic Frontline, Zone 4 Podcast, and Frontline Gaming Zone. Together, we are your #1 source for comic-related news, reviews, and a whole bunch more. Hopefully, next week's review will be a little bit earlier than this, but again, it's Convergence. We got to read it's extra reads. So again, we'll talk about this more on the live show this Friday. So until then, everybody, take care. Keep reading, keep collecting. We'll see you guys in the next video.
Later, everybody.